Welcome back to the Abundant Practice Podcast. I'm your host, Allison Pereira, founder of abundancepracticebuilding.com. And I'm here today with Dr. John Demartini, and we're talking about kind of basically the theme is things don't always go as hoped in business and how there's opportunity there. There are ways to maybe change the way that we are looking at things, our perspective. So I'm excited to have this conversation with you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for give me the opportunity to be with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is your wheelhouse, right? This is something you talk to folks about all the time. That folks are not always going to have this wonderfully linear path in their business, that it is by nature bumpy.
Well, if you're in a relationship with somebody,
Mm-hmm.
there's going to be times when you have support and other times challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasures and pains, hugs and slugs, I call it.
Uh-huh.
And it's unrealistic to expect one without the other.
Mm-hmm.
And just like it is in a relationship with people, so too in relationship with our objectives in life.
Mm-hmm.
The objectives that we pursue that are deeply meaningful are going to have forwards and backwards and ups and downs and the gyrations that occur. And the probability of being absolutely stable is very low. We're going to have ups and downs. I don't know of anybody, and all the work I've done and all the years I've done, that ever has up and away.
Mm-hmm.
That just doesn't occur. Now the question is how do we manage it? This is the emotional intelligence that we have. How do we manage this? How do we govern our perceptions before they become so extreme that they distract us and become intrusive?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to share a story, if I could, of a doctor who asked me to help him become successful.
Okay.
So he calls me up and he says, Dr. Demartini, I'd like to hire you for consulting to help me become successful. I said, all right. And he said, yeah, I've been in practice for about 10, 11 years. And no matter what I do, I just hit this plateau. My glass ceiling, I guess he called it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, so you want me to help you become successful? He said, yeah. I said, where are you successful? He said, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I asked a question. Where are you successfully? Dr. Demartini, I'm not. That's what I want you to help me with. I said, I know. But where are you achieving what your intentions are and you're achieving it? And he goes, okay, my wife and I have been together 10 and a half years, almost 11 years. And we have the most amazing relationship. Compared to people I know, this is like, we really have gold. The most stable, dynamic, most amazing appreciation, respect, and love for each other. And that is something I dreamed about. And I feel like I'm having that. I said, great. So in that area, what you intended is manifesting. He said, yes. Where else? He looked and he goes, my son, he's 10 years old. He's in baseball. I'm a coach. We're probably going to win the pennant for the summer. And we really have, a pretty cool dynamic when we're playing baseball. And that's a goal. And I want to be a coach at baseball and I sponsor it with my practice. So it's kind of a win-win. Mm-hmm. But now I think about it, that's something we set out for doing and we're doing great. I said, great. What's the third achievement, success? Well, now that you're making me look at it, my mother-in-law lives with us and most people don't get along with their mother-in-law. And, but we really have an amazing relationship. I love her. She's like a real mother to us, but she doesn't interfere with what we want to do. And we have our privacy. She has her own little room and we really have a great dynamic like that. Very few people I know could have that kind of stability with a mother-in-law living. I said, what else? Well, we're all working in the yard and we all work and make this beautiful yard. There's flowers around the trees and shrubs and trimmed. And it's just, we're probably going to get yard for the summer again. And yeah, the whole family works in that. We're really close knit. What's another one? Well, on Wednesdays and Sundays, I do ministerial work, and I dreamed since my 20s to be able to, speak at my church and be a kind of a co-teacher and co-minister, and I'm doing it. I said, okay, So can you see? And we made a list of all these things he was actually achieving,
Mhm.
but he was not acknowledging or honoring that until I made him look.
Right.
And I said, now, the only reason why you're thinking you're not successful is because you're comparing yourself to somebody else that has a different set of values that you're looking up to. Who is that? He says, I think I know. There's a guy down the street or up the street. He's got a 6,000 square foot home, 3-car garage, 5 cars, big practice, makes tons of money. And wow, he's like knocks out of the ballpark, doctors. I mean, he's just doing amazing. And I said, great. Do you know him very well? Yeah. Do you know his relationship with his wife? Yeah. How is it? It's interesting you ask. It's extremely volatile, extremely turmoiled. Um, yeah, they break up and then they make up and then they want to kill each other and then they're back together again. It's really highly passionate and volatile. I said, so if you could have that relationship, would you take it? He goes, oh God, no. No, I'm grateful for what I've got. I said, so he's got a volatile relationship. Yes. What else? Does he have a son? Yes. Is he playing ball? No. They're having problems with him. He's doing drugs and he's not going to school and they got a lot of turmoil around the son and between the wife and the son, it's just a lot of chaos. And I said, so he's got chaos in that area? Yep. And what about the mother-in-law? Did they have a mother-in-law live with them? Oh, no, no. They moved out of the country to get away from the mother-in-law because she's like a control freak. And does he work in the yard? No, no. They have people that take care of it. I don't think he even notices his yard. He's too busy. And what about, does he do Sunday school and does he do church or anything else? No, they're not religious at all. That they go on trips on the weekends. I said, let me explain something to you. That man does not have more success than you. He has a different form of achievement according to the values he holds. And he
Mhm.
has a higher value on business and finance, a lower value on family and spirituality. You have a higher value on family and spirituality and a lower value on business and finance. So you're excelling in the area of your hierarchy of values. He's excelling in his. He's not more successful or less successful. They're just different.
Mhm.
He said, I would never have seen that until you brought that to my attention. But right now, I wouldn't trade places with his family, his mother-in-law, the yard. I would much rather have what I have. And I said, that's why you do. Your hierarchy
Mhm.
of values have you. So anytime you compare yourself to other people, instead of comparing your own daily actions to your own values, you're going to minimize yourself. You're going to inject their values. You're going to think, I should be doing this. You're going to beat yourself up. You're going to think that there's some sort of sabotage. But in fact, you're living congruently with what you are really dedicated to and what you value. And you're trying to envy him and imitate him, which is futile.
Mhm.
He said, now I understand why you asked the question, where am I successful? I said, yes. So I just want to let you know, if you're willing to change your values and now move it in a direction where business and finances are higher, I can do that. But you're going to possibly have some more of those symptoms that he has in the process
Mhm.
unless we raise those on a value and we delegate more things to give
Mhm.
time to the family. So we have to decide, what do you want? Do you want to revamp the values or change the goals and appreciate who you are? It's wiser to appreciate who you are and then tweak the values a bit to change things, but don't think you're going to get his life without his challenges.
Yes, I love that. And I think so the majority of people listening are therapists. They are either starting a private practice or have been in private practice or considering it. We know from our clinical work that like life is not easy, that the line is never straight, that emotion impacts how we do things. Like we know all the things and we apply them to our relationships. We then hope or maybe are in denial around how the ebbs and flows are also going to impact business. It's almost like somehow the way of the world doesn't apply. And it's this like intense denial that can happen. And it's true that once you've been established for a while, maybe you don't have an ebb and flow in terms of caseload. You may stay full, but that doesn't mean there aren't struggles within the business. Um, can you speak to how these struggles might lead to opportunity for people when they're looking at it from a perspective that serves them better?
Okay, can I shock some people?
Yeah, shock them.
Good. Um, every symptom in a business is a feedback mechanism to guide our actions to authenticity. Now, let me give you a little strategy that helped me take my business from one staff member and myself to 5 doctors, 12 staff members, and from 1,000 to a 5,000 square foot office in 18 months, all in 18 months.
Well, that is a fast growth.
Okay, let me show you what I did. And whoever's listening out there, get a piece of paper out, get ready to draw and write, because this is worth writing. You take a piece of paper and put it in five lines, 6 columns, equal spaced. So there's 6 columns in front of you, 5 lines. And the far left at the top, as you cross the line at the top, the category under this first column is called daily actions. So you write down every single thing you do in a day, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, every single thing you do. And not vague generalities and broad topics, marketing, sales, calling, Every action you do, even down to the procedures you typically do with your clients. Everything. Ordering supplies, calling somebody, whatever it is, going to the bank, every single action you do, home, cooking, every action. Divide up into professional and personal. But you make a list. Now that's going to be multiple pages. And write small, to make it, try to get 1 per line. After you make that, you're going to automatically reflect and go, wow, I'm majoring in minors and minoring in majors. I'm doing a whole lot of things that aren't really fulfilling, inspiring, or productive. And you got to face the truth of that first. That's the first step. So make a list and be honest about that list. What do you actually do? Break it down into nitty-bitty action steps. I did this at age 27 after reading a book called The Time Track by Albert McKinsey. And I did this exercise. When I got through with it, I already knew that I was doing low priority stuff. And every time you're doing low priority stuff, you devalue yourself. And anytime you devalue yourself, so do the world and your clients around you. So it's a reflection. Then on the next column, column 2, the title is productivity per hour. Productivity per hour. How much income does that produce per hour by doing that action? So you go through that same list and ask, does it even produce?
Right.
And what of those actions do produce? Because when you're doing something that produces, it means you're meeting somebody's needs and they are valuing it enough to pay for that. Because if you're doing something that doesn't have enough value for people to pay for it, you're devaluing your time. So I made a list on that and I discovered something, that my 10 years of college wasn't the most productive thing. What I was specializing in doing was not the most productive thing. Me going out and doing presentations and exposing the work to people and engaging people to come and get the work was more productive than me clinically being in there working by the hour. And so I was kind of going, whoa, that's interesting. I looked at what it could produce per hour doing my session, which is around 15 to 1,800 an hour. When I'm doing the speaking, I get 15,000 an hour doing presentations. So I made a list of every single thing and I extrapolated it what it was per hour, from doing exams and doing evaluations to whatever I did in that office. I made it and I looked at what does it produce per hour. When I did, I reprioritized that list from the most productive thing, which is speaking, down to the least productive thing. And there was a whole lot of zeros on there. And at that time, when I saw the 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, like 50, 60 zeros on there, I realized as long as I'm doing that, I'm devaluing myself. There's absolutely no value. And whenever you devalue yourself, you can burn out and bore. So I decided some of those things I was going to charge for. They're my time. and they're valuable and they're my expertise. And I was just doing what somebody else told me to do. And I was just following somebody that never took the time to really evaluate it. So I started charging for things that I wasn't charging for. And I started to look at what was priority, and I made the list from the most to the least. And I realized if I'm not focusing up here, I'm holding my business back. I'm holding my practice back. And I'm devaluing myself. And anytime you're doing low priority things, you devalue yourself. And when you do, you're not going to, why would somebody want to be around somebody devaluing themselves? Nobody likes to hang out with people like that.
Right.
The third column was how much meaning does it have on a 1 to 10 scale? Because if you can't wait to get up in the morning and do your work, people can't wait to get your service. But if you're not inspired to go do it, why would somebody want to be around you? You know, if you're not inspired to do it, I love teaching, right? I love doing certain things. When I do that, I'm engaged. But I wouldn't want to do half the stuff that was going on in the clinic at the time. So I made a list of what the meaning was on a 1 to 10 scale, 10 being the most inspiring and 0 for things that are uninspiring. Now I reprioritized that list. And then I looked at the 2 priorities, the one that produced the most and had the most meaning. So it was fulfilling me and fulfilling my clients. And it just so happened that 5 of those top ones overlapped. So I now know where I need to be putting my energy. Those are the ones that I can't wait to get up in the morning to do, and people can't wait to get that service. And that brings what Peter Lynch called the 4 appreciable assets that a person brings to their business. They're grateful for their job. They love what they're doing. They're inspired by the vision. They're enthusiastically working. They're certain about their skill, and they're present when they do it. You put those 6 things in place, your business is going to flourish, guaranteed. Now, the next column was, how much does it cost to delegate that? What would be the cost? Now, not just salary costs, that's just one, but space usage costs, equipment costs, depreciation, training costs, telephone use, vacation costs, bonus costs, parking cost, paperclip cost, insurance cost, everything on the cost. What would it cost to have somebody who's more competent than me doing that, to delegate that to? Because I don't want to have to micromanage somebody and have to talk and push them all the time. I got to have somebody that's more engaged, more inspired to do that than I am. So what would that cost? And I put that together and I looked at the spreads between what produced versus what cost. And I prioritized it according to spread. Wow. Then the next column was time. How much actual time do I spend on it per day on average? So I can allocate a job description accordingly. And on the following column, the last column, the 6th one, is the final prioritization. So I made the list and a total final prioritization. Then I divided those into 10 layers, and I put a job description for each layer, and I hired the bottom layer. It took me 3 people to get that right person. I hired the next layer. It took me 2 people to do that. And I kept getting more efficient at hiring because I made sure, because nobody goes to work for the sake of a company. They go to work to fulfill their values. I find out what their values are, and I find out how congruent they are with the job description to make sure that they're engaged in it. When I hire somebody, I liberated that portion. I generated more income. I expanded my operation. I felt more like a specialist and a doc now instead of just a handyman and handy guy. And I worked my way up in over 18 months from start to finish, from first reading that book to the time I'm now in a 5,000 square foot office, 5 doctors, 12 staff members, making 10 times net profit.
Wow.
10 times net profit with 100 new patients a month coming in.
Delegation is something that a lot of people fear.
Well, if you get the book, The Time Trap by Ellen McKenzie, or there's another one I did a book recently called The Productivity Factor. Get that book. I've outlined the whole thing on that. If you don't delegate, you're trapped. And you're going to be doing low priority things. You can't live an inspired and prosperous life doing low priority things. Not going to happen. So if
Mhm.
you're not delegating and you're doing low priority things, you're holding yourself back. And the pitfalls, well, by the time I delegate, I could have done it. Well, they may not do it the way I decide to do it. Or if I do it, it's going to cost more than they do. These are all symptoms of not knowing how to properly delegate and hire people that are better at it than you. If
Mhm.
you hire A people, you get growth. If you hire Z people, you get weighed down.
Mhm. What tips do you have for people for hiring A people?
You, first of all, you put together a really clear description of what you're expecting and make sure it's reasonable in time and everything else. Then when you are looking for somebody, you outline what it is you're looking for and make sure it matches.
Mhm.
And then what you do is you do a value determination process. On my website, drdemartini.com, there's a free evaluation. People use it from all over the world. It's a free value determination process. Have them go through that, and
Mhm.
you go through with them and learn how to do it. Go on the website and do it. And then make sure you know what their values are, because their highest values is what they're committed to. If they can't see how the job description you're giving them is going to help them fulfill that, you're going to have to micromanage them and motivate them and incentivize them and push crap uphill all day long.
Mhm.
But if they can see by you asking, how is doing this action helping you fulfill your top value? If they can fluently, congruently answer that with enthusiasm, they can see how doing that's going to get them what they want. If they have to go, I don't know, let me think, and there's an incongruency and hesitation, there's no
Mhm.
fluency and congruency. So you can screen people out and save yourself enormous amounts of aggravation on the hiring process if you just go through and find out what their top values are and find out how the job description, whether it matches it. If it doesn't, don't hire them. If
Mhm.
it's not at least 80% in line with what their values are, don't waste your time on them.
I feel like this falls beautifully into hire slow, fire fast. Of
Yes.
just if you take your time with the hiring, you will save yourself a load of heartache in the end. And especially therapists, like therapists are loath to fire someone because we see the best in everybody and we understand, like we end up knowing their life story and we know their cat just died and we can't let them go now. So we end up throwing
Well,
hurdles in our own way
you you
instead of
you have
hiring
to have,
well.
if you don't have objective data to measure, you're going to be trapped in a subjective emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have objective data, a metric and an evaluation, a quarterly evaluation and a metric on a daily, weekly basis. If you
Mm-hmm.
do, you have data to go by and you can just keep it data-based. And if you're not the one that does that, if that's not your skill, then hire somebody who manages people and get on with running the clinic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, when I stopped doing all that stuff and I just spoke and did the healing, man, I was freed. I
Mm-hmm.
never went back. All I do is teach, research, write, and travel. This is
Mm-hmm.
my third this today already, since 6 this morning.
Uh-huh.
So I teach, research, and write and travel, period. I don't cook. I don't drive. I haven't driven a car in 34 and a half years, almost 35 years. I haven't cooked since I was 24. I have my captain for my ship. I've got a guide for driving. I've got a concierge, people that take care of travels and all that. I got administrative people. I learned, and people say, well, that's because you're independently wealthy. You can do that. I became independently wealthy because I did it.
Mm-hmm.
People get that backwards.
Mm-hmm.
You manage money wisely, you get more money to manage. When you manage people wisely, you get more people to manage.
Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about the average therapist who has just started a practice. They're listening to this and they're like, I am barely making my mortgage. I don't want a huge staff. I don't want to scale to that level. I would still encourage them to get a VA at the very least. See what
Yes,
it's like to manage that. You don't need to be uploading your own blog posts. You don't need to be calling people back necessarily. If it's a clinical issue, sure, but to make appointments, you don't need to be answering your phone. There are a number of things that you can outsource and you're paying them essentially what you would make in one session per week.
that's it.
Yeah.
Anytime you're doing low priority things, you're devaluing yourself. And if you can go and make thousands an hour and you're doing $100 an hour job or less, you're holding yourself back.
Mhm.
Now, if you get somebody that you rescue that needs a job, but they're not skilled in what you want and they're not inspired by doing it, then you're going to hold yourself back and trap yourself.
Mhm. Yep.
But if you get the right person, they will free you up, allow you to see more clients. Now, your practice capacity is the number of new clients times the client visit average. It's a
Mm-hmm.
formula. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're not scheduling and packaging decent packages to serve people by, and you're living from one white line to the next, when you're driving, you're going to be wobbling all over the place with volatility.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a package that you're offering people and you're planning on transforming their life long term, am I clear on the video?
You are. Mm-hmm.
Okay, looked like it was easy. If you package something that allows them to go longer term, your client visit averages grow, and now your practice capacity grows up. And then if you have a dollar average per patient to client, you can make the profits. But the key is, if you're not saving and investing a portion of what you make, you will struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, no matter how much you make, take a portion of it and buy assets. Either go buy the S&P 500 and just keep buying on a weekly basis. When I started doing that and increasing that, my business went bonkers. You have to
Mm-hmm.
value yourself and invest in things that go up in value if you want your practice to go up in value.
Yes. Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Demartini. I really appreciate you talking with us. I hope that this helped take people's perspective and goals maybe bigger and higher than they might have been thinking before. And I would really love for people to make those 5 lines, those six columns, so that they can really look at what they're doing, what they could potentially outsource, play with that idea. Don't be scared to hire, y'all. If you hire well, oh my gosh, your whole life opens up. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be with you.
Take care.
Thank you.